first to the floor here. Pierce comes up with it. Hit the deck, first to the floor, making every big play for the Celtics today. Tatum knocks it away, trying to get it, dives. What a play by Dave Coward. Watch him dive for the ball right here. Look at this hustle.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. I think we're all doing pretty well after that hilarious and timely collapse by the Milwaukee Bucks against the Lebron-less Lakers last night. Alongside me, Wayne Spooney and Jake Eisenberg. How's it going, guys?
Doing good. Guys, real quick. Do you know who Caitlin Clark is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think she is becoming a LeBron-like figure to me in the hate category.
Oh, no.
Wow.
They
Same.
beat WVU in the second round of the Women's March Madness.
Oh, is that? Okay. Yeah.
They shot 33 free throws. WVU shot
no.
5. Dame
What?
was tweeting about it. Dame tweeted like,
Oh, no.
WVU's getting screwed, man. So anyway, I'm doing good other than that.
That's tough because I like her from what I've seen from far away, but obviously there's nothing that she could do to me personally because Massachusetts doesn't have a WNBL NBA team and I don't have a college, so yeah.
You got the Connecticut Sun up in New England, man.
Yeah.
All right, as long as she's that would hurt. All right,
Yeah.
But no.
I don't know about you, Jake. I've completely latched onto WVU just through Spoon.
Okay.
He's like the first college hoops person I've known. So I'm like, that's my ride and die team now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I blame you.
mine's kind of Clemson. One of my best friends is from Clemson,
All right,
and
nice.
so it was all my friends from high school went to school in America, and so Clemson, Penn State, a few random ones that I went to University of Miami for a weekend. That was cool.
It's a dope campus. I visited there when I was
Very
looking
cool.
at grad school.
Big
Yeah.
frat party, giant mansion, everybody naked thing. Like,
Oh.
I can understand why people like it down there.
Yeah. That might be an
Anyway.
off-season pod right there, Jake. Hearing that story.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Naked-ish.
Yeah, naked-ish, all right.
Okay, appropriately naked. Now, look, we've got a fun one coming up. We're going to get to everyone's favorite unsponsored segment, the Schadenfreude Report. We're going to talk about the Celtics' crunch time issues and whether or not they're actually that bad. And we're going to talk about the upcoming Game 2 of the 2-game mini-series against the Atlanta Hawks. But first, bit of housekeeping here. Hit that like button if you're here watching live on YouTube. Shout out to everybody in the chat or watching later. Subscribe to the First to the Floor YouTube channel and or audio podcast. That's going to bless us with the algorithm gods and put this show in front of more people. It's also going to wash your YouTube algorithm or podcast algorithm with more Celtics content, which is always a good idea. Playback.tv/Celtics blog. Go and sign up there. Watch live Celtics games with us. Jake, myself, Spoonie, and other folks from the Celtics blog. Multiverse, 3-Leaf Clover, Spoonie's weekly column on Celtics blog. What do you got for us this week, Spoonie, on 3-Leaf Clover?
So this week, I'm going to break down what the Celtics should be doing at the end of games instead of what they are doing. And a little bit of stats. I tweeted out some stats today about like their shots that I'll bring up on this pod in the last 2 minutes of games. So like a little more narrow focus than crunch time and just getting into the nitty gritty there.
Timely. Already better time management than the Boston Celtics. Amazing.
Heyo.
Discord, merch, the links are below in the description. They're also in the podcast show notes if you're listening later. And check out the Celtics Lab and How About Them Celtics podcasts. Great podcasts run by a great bunch of blokes, also under the CLNS media umbrella. So if you like this show, you're going to like them as well. So make sure you hop over to their channels and check them out. All right, guys, let's get right into it. Everybody's favorite unsponsored segment, the Schadenfreude Report.
I cannot believe.
The Milwaukee Schmucks, guys, 124-128 loss in double OT to the LeBron-less Lakers. The Bucks held a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter, a familiar tale, one that Celtics fans might be familiar with. Austin Reeves had a good game, a triple-double, also a similar tale to what Celtics fans might be familiar with. But the Lakers, they had a 27-13 fourth quarter to force the game into overtime and eventually win in double OT. Jake, I feel inclined to throw to you here first because this is a Jake Eisenberg segment here. How does this one make you feel? What should Celtics fans take away from this one?
This one really got me going. I got to be honest. Like, this one really tipped me over the edge. And I've been trying to figure it out. Why does everybody freak out after a Celtics loss, et cetera, et cetera? Everybody's been slobbering all over the Bucks. They won one game against the Thunder, and every podcast's like, oh my God, here they come. And I figured it out. I mean, it's essentially like whatever the thing is that rarely happens, that's what sticks out in people's minds. Celtics lose a game, people freak out. Pistons win a game. The NBA world was never more locked in than they were during the Pistons losing streak. So them winning a game was big news, and the Bucks winning a big game and playing well against a big opponent is big news. But this, I mean, look, the lack of self-awareness from Bucks fans is truly astounding. Like, I understand wanting to come at the Celtics after they blow that Hawks game. Like, I get it. The game is the game. We're all out here for the takes. But do you not realize at this point in the season that your team's more likely than not to embarrass you 24 hours later or less? Like, this is what's happened in the last 26 games since Doc Rivers has taken over. Blew a 19th-point fourth-quarter lead to the LeBron Lakers at home yesterday. Lost to the Celtics. Blown out by 35 to the Kings. Lost to the LeBron and AD-less Lakers. D'Lo goes off for 44 points. The last time D'Lo scored 40 was in 2019. Lost to the Wolves. Blown out by 35 to the Warriors. Blew a game down the stretch against the Memphis Grizzlies. Blown out by 26 against the Heat. Lost to the Suns. Blown out by the Jazz. Blew a crunch time game against the Blazers. Lost to the Nuggets. That's 12 losses in the last 26 games. Do you know how far back you have to go to find 12 Celtics losses? December fucking 4th. That's how far back you have to go to find 12 Celtics losses.
4 months.
4 months. The Bucks are frauds. Their Mickey Mouse ring is nonsense. They would never have been anywhere near the finals if not for a Kyrie ankle and a Harden hamstring. They played the Trae Young Hawks in the conference finals. They got to play Chris Paul-led Phoenix Suns and DeAndre Ayton in the finals. Mickey Mouse ring, and then they turn around and say that, oh my God, we would have won that Celtics series if we had Middleton, while not realizing they wouldn't have sniffed the conference finals, let alone the finals, if not for the decimation of the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, and by the way, Dame has shot under 40% from the field in 29 games this year. That's 43% of all of his games shooting below 40%. They're frauds. Fuck the Bucks. We're going to the finals.
I don't know how the hell I follow that, but yeah, fuck the Bucks. We're going to the finals. This game was like the morning Bloody Mary after you had too many drinks, and that like the Hawks loss was, I got way too drunk for how old I am. I puked a little bit, and then you wake up and you get the hair of the dog, and you're like, all right, I'm starting to feel pretty good again all of a sudden.
There we go.
It was like such a vintage Doc Rivers coach team performance where he's just like confused as the lead's melting away and basically does nothing different, and they just completely fall apart. It reminded me a bit of Game 6 in our second round series against the Sixers, where it's like Tatum's going nuts and they're just like letting it happen. They're not like throwing doubles at him. He hits 2 threes, he hits 3, he hits 4, and Doc's like, oh, what did just happen? Like someone just punched him in the face. So it just, man, I needed that, because that Hawks game, that kind of got me down. It, like, I know it means nothing and it was not a big deal, and we were missing both of our starting guards, but that's just a shitty way to lose.
Totally.
But thanks, Bucks. You just always count on the Bucks to like completely embarrass themselves immediately after we do.
Yeah, after any Celtics game, and in this case, after a loss to the Hawks, for me, it's sigh, deep sigh. Control T, new tab, twitter.com. All right, let's see what the discussion is. And you just knew what was coming, the avalanche of negativity after that Hawks game. And then the knowledge of having to wait 2 days before a shot at redemption. And you know that the Celtics, I would hope so, are going to bring it and bring off their full force of vengeance against the Hawks in this second game. But for the Bucks to lose in this fashion, after dancing on our grave after that loss to the Hawks, really it shortened the window of suffering for Celtics fans. So for that, good. I'm appreciative. And it's just hugely meaty bone for the Schadenfreude Report. Exactly what we needed to get this segment up off the ground again. So good stuff.
I was so excited, dude, when that thing, because I was watching it all on delay. And so like I'm watching this thing go down. I'm watching late. I'm like, no way. No way. I'm like, oh my God, I've missed out on the party online. Apparently, once I finally got to overtime and then double overtime. Yeah, and then you add the fact that they had to play double overtime. Like, if you're going to lose, you may as well just lose in regulation. It's
Yes.
like you're adding double
Idiots.
overtime. Yeah, dumbasses, dude. Why don't you lose like the Celtics, like real men? Take the next 2 days off in regulation.
Take the L.
And it's like Dame, Brooke, and Middleton all aging, and like you have to play like everybody was dead at the end of that game, and it's like now they got it, and these games matter so much more to the Bucks. Like now they fall even closer towards the 3, and like, am I wrong? But like, are they like sneaky in danger of falling into like the 4-5? Like they're only 2.5 games up on the 4 seed right now. It's like not what you want at all. Like these games definitely matter for them purely for the standings perspective, but also can they play good for a week in a row before the rest of the fucking media goes, look at them go. Like the Celtics were 20-2 or what is it? 20-3? 20-3?
20-3.
What are we doing, dude?
Which is a 71 win pace over a full season. I did the math today. So the Celtics last 23 games, they're winning at a 71 win pace, and the Bucks are 500 essentially, and they're crowning the Bucks. But the hubris of Bucks fans. I remember that Kyrie season when it was all falling apart and the team clearly hated each other. I was not dancing on graves. I was like, man, this feels like it's going to like fail catastrophically in the playoffs. But these dudes, they don't give a shit. They're out there like, oh, the Celtics lost, ha 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 ha. You're like, dude, your team has a negative net rating in March. Like, maybe look in the mirror a little bit. But I can't believe that they set themselves up for these disappointments. Like, I would be a little more humble on the internets if that was my team.
Yeah, and this gassing up Middleton as well, where you only have to watch a couple of Bucks games to notice the pattern of anytime they have a crucial defensive possession, Middleton is firmly on the bench and nowhere to be seen out on the court because his defense is dog shit. So shout out to Bucks fans. Thank you for the content. One more point on the Schadenfreude Report before we move away from Schadenfreude, and we'll talk about some injury stuff, which we want to make sure is properly decoupled from the Schadenfreude Report. But the Heat got handily defeated by the Golden State Warriors yesterday. And I believe this is the Heat commentator, correct me if I'm wrong, anointed us the champions of the 2022 NBA season.
Andrew Wiggins, a guy who averaged 18 points and 9 rebounds a game in the 2022 NBA Finals, which they lost to the Celtics. Two years ago, it was Boston in 6 to win it all. 1 point Heat lead with under a minute left in the...
So you assume the gap in the middle is like the producer being like, nah, man, that is not what happened at all. And then he somehow comes back and doubles down on that take, which is completely insane. I don't know where to go with this, Spoonie, other than like what was going through this guy's mind. It feels toyed with my emotions a little bit because obviously it brings up some bad memories of what could have been. But what's going on here?
I have no idea, but that's a reality I'm now choosing to live in from here on forward. So, but yeah, I think like when you talk for 82 games for like 2.5 hours, like that's just a lot of talking. You're just going to be like out of it one day. You know what I mean? Like I have bad days at work. Like this dude just not having a good brain day at work. You know, it happens, but don't really appreciate right. Exactly. But it does kind of suck to like bring that up, and it got some news and like people are posting it everywhere. It's like,
Yeah, Sam Esfandiari, like co-host of the Light Years pod, he tagged me being like, "Congratulations, Jake Eisenberg." I'm like, "Yeah, this is great. Can't wait to chase Banner 19 this upcoming playoffs. It's very exciting. The second title of the Tatum and Jalen era is coming soon."
Yeah, hang the banner with just like a little asterisk at the bottom as per the Miami Heat commentator. 2022 champions.
That's right.
All right. Now let's get to some news from our closest rivals and opponents, but not part of the Schadenfreude Report. The first one, Patrick Beverley seemed to announce on his pod. I haven't heard the clip yet. I've just read several tweets and Reddit posts about it. He announced that he has torn ligaments in his wrist and is weighing up surgery options and is most likely going to be out for the season, which puts the Milwaukee Bucks in a position where they have seemingly no backup point guard. They lose someone who's maybe come in and gassed up their defense. If not the actual defense, then their motivations defensively, you might say. Jake, what does this news bring to your mind as far as how it affects the Celtics?
Like, they need all the players they can get, really. Like, so this is obviously like not good, but all of the numbers from Pat Bev, like on-off net rating stuff, they're pretty bad. So I didn't think this was like a huge deal. But then this guy tweeted, he's a Bucks guy, Cream City, I believe is his podcast. Wow, Bucks don't have a backup point guard. Just lost the life and soul of the defense. This is a huge loss, much bigger than people likely think. Wow, I legit couldn't tell if that was satire or not. Like, I couldn't, but I think he's being serious because from what I tell, like Pat Bev's washed, and I actually think that like him being on the roster gives Doc kind of like a crutch in that he'll kind of keep going back to Bev even if he's like not effective because he's a veteran. That's kind of what Doc does. The problem with the Bucks is like, what does this mean? Is like, do you play more Andre Jackson or Marjon Beauchamp or AJ Green? It's like AJ Green, but or Pat Connaughton. So I don't think it really matters because they're all kind of the same player to me. But if that's actually true, then obviously we don't want to see injuries. And I've talked about my respect for Patrick Beverley's career. But like, if that makes the Bucks worse, and that's objectively good for the Celtics, and that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Pat Bev can kind of defend certain types of guys, and he can make some shots. And like when you look at that Bucks bench, like it appears Ty Washington is like the only real point guard on the bench now, and he flamed out in one of the worst Houston Rockets teams like of all time. Like he couldn't even make that roster. I'm not even sure he's on a full contract. I think he might be on a two-way for them. So they just don't have a lot of options. And at least Pat Bev in a playoff series, he's playable. He might not be like positive. He might be negative. But compared to some of these like unknown young guys who aren't really ball handlers, or Pat Connaughton, who I think has been playing a little bit better recently, but's had a pretty bad year. They just really lack depth all over the place. And Doc's doesn't do depth any favors. I mean, he's not real creative with how he uses like deep bench guys. So it's bad news for the Bucks. It sucks for Pat Bev. As much as I hate him on the court, when I see clips of his podcast, he does come off quite likable. So he seems like a pretty good dude off the court. So that it's too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose as far as how it pertains to the Celtics and potentially this playoff matchup, these new rules of the NBA are unwilling to acknowledge of more better allowed physicality defensively. That obviously benefits a player like Pat Bev, who has made a career out of being really physical and tenacious defensively. He's now not a presence in a potential playoff series against the Bucks. So as much as we despise injury and we want Pat Bev to get better as soon as possible, that takes the pressure off, I think, our guards. And potentially, you think about guards getting switched onto KP, and no matter how small they are, KP does have trouble with that added physicality, which we're going to get to a little bit later. Pat Bev out of the equation obviously makes life a little bit easier for the Celtics. So it's that weird situation where obviously you don't wish injury on anyone. You hope that they get better soon, but you immediately recognize, it does ease some of that pressure, I think, defensively on the Celtics if we do see the Bucks in the playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs, I'm going to use this to segue to some Joel Embiid news as well. This is the current East playoff picture. So we've got the Pacers in 6th, and they have I can't remember the name of the website, playoffseeding.com or
playoff status.
Playoff status. Thank you, Jake. A 41% chance of holding the 6th seed, or a 27% chance of dropping to the 7th seed. In 7th place, the Heat. They're 39-33 at the moment, so one loss back from the Pacers. They have a 37% chance of holding on to that 7th seed, or a 22% chance of climbing to the 6th. Then we've got in 8th, the 8th seed, the Sixers, too many numbers, who are 39-33. So very close to the Heat there. The 9th seed, we've got the Bulls, and 10th, we've got the Hawks. So as it stands currently, the Heat would be in that play-in pool, if you will, along with the Sixers, the Bulls, and the Hawks. Jake, I know you're captain of the ship of we want to avoid the Heat at all costs. How does this current play-in / playoff picture make you feel?
We're gonna play the Heat in round 1.
Yeah.
They're the worst, dude. Like they're like what? Jimmy Butler's just not even playing. Like they just don't seem to give a shit, dude. And it's like they're gonna fall out of the playoffs one of these years, like completely, and they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose both playing. Like they almost did this last year. So like that's the big hope, right? Is that they just completely fall out And I mean, I'll talk about the Embiid news now just because like it parlays with this point right here is that Woj was just on TV talking about how they expect Embiid back when, not if. And Nick Nurse today is saying there's a very good likelihood that Embiid's back before the start of the playoffs / play-in. He's going to be back on Simmons' podcast. He was saying the same thing, that he's going to be back. The Sixers fans that I interact with, they're all kind of have the same information. A lot of Celtics fans in our Discord are just believe that Embiid's not going to come back, which is, I think, possible, totally. But I think all signs are pointing to him coming back. I'm going to guess like 3 to 5 games before the regular season ends. And if he's healthy enough-ish, and like the conditioning's not going to be that much of an issue in like that context, last 5 games and then a play-in game, I'd be pretty surprised if they don't just win that play-in game, because that's kind of where he can be really good. It's like, okay, 1 game, it's not the constant burden, the conditioning's not going to pick up potentially. I could see him destroying, even if like if the Pacers do fall in, 41% sounds like a lot, because it's a lot higher than the other numbers, but that's obviously still, they're still giving a 38% chance that they fall into the 7 or the 8 seed. So, like, still a very good chance they fall in there as well. I think Embiid just would destroy the Pacers in a 1 game, or the Heat as well. Like, I think that's very possible in a 1-game scenario, which pushes the Heat into the 8 seed. I think that, to me, seems like the most likely scenario right now, and then we're going to have to rely on either the Bulls or the Hawks to beat the Heat in the playing, which is like legitimately possible. Like the Heat aren't good enough where like that's not out of the realm of possibility, clearly, because it almost happened last year. But I think, I mean, I don't know how much everybody believes in the power of the universe, but if you do believe in it, then you're probably feeling like more likely than not right now we're going to get the Heat in round 1.
What do you think, Spoons?
The Bucks swept the Heat on their way, avenging, I think, a first-round knockout. A second-round knockout in the bubble, and then avenged that with a first-round sweep of the Heat when they won the title. So,
universe, I raise you. I see you, and I raise you another one. All right, I like
one
it.
of Tatum's watches.
There you go.
So, I will never cheer for a non-Celtics team more than I will cheer for the Chicago Bulls or Atlanta Hawks.
Oh my God.
When they play the Miami Heat in that play-in game. Like, I might just drive up to Chicago, or I guess it'd be in Miami. Damn it, that's too far away. But, so, go ahead.
Well,
Jake.
I was going to say, secondarily, like the subplot here is the Embiid playing the Bucks in round 1 is
That's
like,
right.
That would be huge.
See, I phrase it this way because that's just the trap we've fallen into as fans. I would rather face the Heat in the first round if it meant that we got to see an Embiid, Giannis, Bucks, Sixers matchup in the first round as well in that 2-7 spot. So it's a sacrifice we have to be willing to make to take on the Heat in order to see those guys just take each other to 7 games, hopefully, and exhaust each other, assuming we do get by the Heat and see one of them, most likely Giannis, down the road. So,
what an insane thing. Jesus.
Do we think this is like the one time Embiid might get stronger as the playoffs go on, as he like plays himself into better shape? Like, that's the one thing I'm thinking. He's going to be so friggin' out of shape in that first round playoff series. It's like, do you just want him then? You can just run him off ball screens and make him like guard in space and just blow by him. But at that, I don't know. I think I would trade that for that Giannis Embiid series.
Mm-hmm.
I want it. I know Sixers fans want it bad. Like, they're convinced that they would win that series for a variety of reasons. I think principal being Doc Rivers and the fact that the Bucks aren't good. That part too.
Mm-hmm. Not a bad call. Well, look, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Celtics' crunch time issues and whether or not they're truly that bad. But first, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
The NBA playoffs are coming and the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's these sad little teams that haven't locked up the number 1 seed and are fighting for seeding, or tournament season, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance, so that your entries stay live even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. Porzingis sitting on a back-to-back, you know we're going for more on Horford points, rebounds, and assists. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less, it's that easy.
Definitely check out Prize Picks. You can download the app as well. If you do sign up, use the code CLNS. You can support us and all the other CLNS shows by doing so. So if you want to support the show, if you want to supplement your hoops viewing experience, check out Prize Picks. It's a lot of fun, and make sure you use the code CLNS on the sign up. Now, the Celtics crunch time issues. Are they really that bad?
Oh, man.
My 3-minute, very shallow preliminary research and data mining suggests maybe, yes, maybe it is that bad. So the 2023-24 Celtics are in crunch time, 20-11, pretty good, with a net rating of 19.1, which is good for 6th in the league. And for reference there, the Bucks, who we saw shit the game down their legs last night against the Lakers, 23-13, good for 3rd, at least in terms of win-loss record in crunch time. The Celtics post All-Star break, however, 2-3 in crunch time games, so under 500 with a net rating of -7, good for 19th in all rankings post All-Star break. They're also dead last in pace on the year in crunch time, which I think is probably the stat that jumps off the page the most, and also the most obvious one. I've got the clip here from one of the final possessions against the Hawks. You could be forgiven for thinking that this clip was being played back to you in slow motion. It is not, and it's everyone just meandering up the court. KP sets this like nothing screen for Tatum, which just gets them nothing. KP tries to set another screen. It's soft. They get nothing out of that. The Hawks do a really good job of switching, and it ends up in a contested step-back 3 for Jaylen Brown. So they just took forever to get into that. When they got into that, they were meandering on the screens and the actions, and they were sort of soft in their approach and their execution there. Just terrible. So while they're well and truly above 500 in crunch time games, it seems like they've gotten worse and slower in their execution as the season has gone on. However, and I promise I'll shut up soon, the 2008 Celtics, those guys who won the title in 2008, they were 24-13 in crunch time, also 6th in the league at that point, with a net rating of just 1.4, and their offense in crunch time was ranked 25th overall. The 2017 Golden State Warriors were 25th in crunch time win-loss record with a 7.4 net rating. And actually, the Celtics, I think that was the last Isaiah Thomas year, were first in net rating of that year. Suffice to say, your crunch time execution and your rankings subsequently don't have to be top of the table for you to be a championship caliber team. That said, crunch time is what we're putting under the microscope for this segment. And let's just be honest, it doesn't look that great. I don't know who wants to take the next stab here, but that's what I got.
Go, Spoonie.
I don't think it looks that bad statistically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our net rating plus 19.1 in crunch time that's really friggin' good. The -7 recently is bad. My guess is that's pretty small minutes. On the pace thing, I think that's the stat that truly is infuriating. But I think part of that is the Celtics very often are in the lead in crunch time, whereas lots of teams probably are trying to catch up, so they're playing faster. So that goes into it. But we all have eyes. They're obviously playing way too friggin' slow in crunch time, even if you can explain away they should be 28th in pace and not dead last. But I don't think they're bad if it's a 5-point game with 4 minutes left. But it's the last 2 minutes, really nail biting time is when I think that they really struggle. So I deep dove into some stats today. We've attempted 46 shots when the score's within 3 and there's 2 minutes or less in the game. We are shooting under 40% on 2s, but 39% on 3s. All of the made 3s are assisted. We have not made a pull-up 3 when it's within 3 under 2 minutes. At the rim, 55%. Short mid-range, 50%. Corner 3, 4 of 6. Above the break, 3 of 12. Long mid-range, 1 of 9.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and I think we all know who is probably to blame for that 1 of 9.
Peyton Pritchett.
That's right.
God damn it. Yeah, Peyton
James
would probably
Springer out of the
smash that shit. Yeah. So I just think it's we're really good at when we actually try to generate good looks, corner 3s, shots at the rim, short mid-range area, which, late game, that's not a bad look at all. But when we settle for long mid-range, above the break 3s, we are terrible at it. And it just goes to like back to that frustrating thing is like, you guys know how to generate these good shots. We just watched it for 46 minutes. Just keep doing that. And I get there's a balance that you don't want to turn it over, but there's also a balance of like, yeah, that clip's a great example, Ben, of like, they're just not doing things with force. They're going through the motions. And this is the last time you should be going through go through the motions in the first quarter, boys.
Mm-hmm.
But so something needs to get fixed. But I had like a Zen moment this morning when I was drinking my morning coffee. I trust Joe Mazzulla to fix it. I really think he will. I think last game was like going to be the breaking point, and I think they'll do better from here on out.
It's funny, like with last game in particular, I'm kind of whatever with it because I think it was just so obviously bad. Like you're gonna watch film for 5 seconds and be like, yeah, that was a disaster. There's no Derek White, and what's funny with all of these records with and without players, KP we're like 17-3. No Jalen, we're undefeated. Tatum, we've lost only 1. But Derek White has missed 6 games, and we're 3-3 in those Derek White games. It's just like he is so important, and especially in these moments. Dr. Germ Scary in the chat here. I bet Derek White made all those clutch shots. Derek White hasn't been insane in the clutch. Yeah, he's at like 47% from 3 in the clutch. He's massively important in the clutch. And like you talked about those minutes, Spoonie. So 2 and 3, that's 17 total minutes over those 5 games. So like the sample size is insanely small. So from a statistics perspective, and Ben, you're on it. Like all those teams, you just don't have to be good to win a title in the clutch. Phoenix Suns were the best crunch time team in the NBA the year they went to the finals and lost to the Bucks, and went through a Mickey Mouse run as well through the playoffs. Like you just don't have to be. And you guys have been, everyone here, we've all been through the last couple of playoff runs where crunch time has not been. It's just not a strength. Like this team is so good at everything, and this is why we come back to this. It's because it's like they're number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in just like everything with a bullet. You name the thing and they're just elite at it. And it's just like the one thing, and it's like it's a glaring thing because one, it's the only thing they're not good at, and obviously it matters when it comes down to big moments. And you remember big moments, going back to my point at the top, you remember things that don't happen very often. And the Celtics don't lose games very often, and they don't do this very often. I think my point with this is like, this team is better. And so it's like, they're better in the clutch than they have been the last couple of years. You can go back and look at all the blown leads in the Udoka season, way worse in the clutch. This team is better in clutch time, better defensively, better offensively, in a variety of ways. So it's like, yes, I think it's okay to be like, this is not a strength of this team. I think they can be better. And I kind of write off this post All-Star break thing as well. It's like right now to beat the Celtics, you kind of have to trick them. You've got to be down 20 in the fourth quarter, and then you might be able to come back. And because the Celtics are like, fuck it, dude, it's March.
This is why we do this.
Clinched.
I feel better already. That was great. I will also add that like not all crunch times are the same. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the parameters or the criteria for crunch time is within 5 points and within 5 minutes or less to go. Mm-hmm. And how we arrived at that point in this Hawks game is the Celtics had been up by 30, and as we approached that 5 minutes to go mark, the Hawks had been on this massive run to get the game close and therefore had all of the momentum. It wasn't this tit for tat. Game was on a knife's edge, super close the whole way through with both teams exchanging punches. It was the Hawks had all the momentum arriving at that point, which I think you could attribute to the Celtics' lack of pace and momentum at that point as well. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't the recipe for that particular crunch time circumstances was different to others that we've seen, say, against the Wolves or the Nuggets so far this season.
Same as the Cavs game.
Yeah, and they had some really good crunch time possessions. Like they had that nice Tatum drive for a dunk. Like it wasn't all a disaster. It's just those like last 2 are so bad that those are the ones, like the Tatum turnover and then the Jalen. I don't. The controller shut off. Like whatever.
It almost went in, dude. It was just hilarious. Like it's so funny. Yeah, like there's
Pritchard
5.
Almost got the rebound. Yeah.
There's 5 possessions, right? The Tatum dunk, the Tatum pull up on the left elbow, and Jalen also hit a shot from the left elbow too. So it's like those 5 possessions, they actually went 3 for 5.
Right.
They were disaster, bad process. Agreed. But you know, you zoom out just a tiny bit. It's like actually not so bad.
That Tatum dunk goes into the
I
Derek
know.
White put-back chamber of secrets, buried underground with all the other great moments in losses. That was such a
Jaylen
sick
Brown
dunk.
dunking on Maxi Kleber on KG's retirement night.
Yeah,
Loss.
Yep.
yeah, exactly. One day after we've won Banner 18, we'll kick back with a 2-hour pod and watch through, because suddenly like those moments are revived. It was all
Doesn't
on the
matter.
road
Yeah.
to the championship, but right now
Yep.
they have to be buried, unfortunately. But that was a sick dunk. Yeah, very deep. All right, well, look, we'll end with some news of the day, and we'll get to this Hawks game tomorrow, which I think we all hopefully assume is going to be a blowout as the Celtics kick back after that very disappointing loss, and hopefully we get a Jason Tatum make-up dunk in a win on that one. But Jason Tatum appeared on, I don't know the name of the show, this is the level of research that goes into this podcast, guys, the post-game show on TNT, and got stuck in this one-on-one conversation with Shaq about whether Tatum would try and dunk on him in a real game situation.
We saw in the playoffs your epic dunk against LeBron a couple years back. We've seen like you get people in this generation. Back in the old days, would you have tried Shaq coming down the lane?
No.
No.
Oh, he's looking straight in your. Would you have tried
No,
him?
the answer
You would
is
have
no.
tried him?
No.
Well, hold on, Shaq.
He
Why
said
wouldn't you
yes.
try?
I'm
Why
asking
wouldn't you
Jason.
try
I'm
you,
not
though?
asking you.
I
He
love
He
said
said no, he answered.
I love his mom. I love his dad. I love his little man, but he know I would have put him on the ground.
He said he would try you. Though.
I would have tried.
That's what he
No,
said.
he wouldn't have tried.
I'm just.
No. Only been dunked on twice in 20 years. There's a reason for that.
Relax.
Only twice?
I'll put you down. You
No, I'm trying.
Don't do it.
I'm
Don't
telling
do
you.
it. Don't do it.
Twice.
Only twice? But
You would have gone for
I
it.
ain't scared, Shaq. Come on now.
Try.
You gotta try, he
tried?
says. You have to. He feels
Catch him
obligated
slipping
to
one
try.
day.
Exactly.
He said he'd catch you slipping.
So,
Late in the help side.
Slow news, eh? So we're running with this. But Shaq walking towards him in sort of a semi-threatening
hilarious.
stance. Like, I think he's wearing Skechers as well, some sort of ankle-supporting geriatric shoe or footwear. I don't know. Do you guys think that Tatum would try and dunk on Shaq? It's a strange hypothetical, but this is where we're at.
I technically he would if the situation presented itself, but I think Shaq's probably right. I don't know I don't know if Jason's. It's not really his game, dunking on people like Shaq. That's more a Jalen move. Jalen would try it.
Oh, yeah. He would have done it already.
Yeah.
What do you think, Spoons?
Yeah, JT like dunks around people, not really like on their heads like JB does. So, and there's no getting around Shaq, especially at this age where he's widened out a bit as well. So, but dude, Jared Greenberg is tall, man. I don't know why. I just assumed he was short, but he's like, you got to be like 6'3", 6'4". He's like Jamal Crawford's height, which is what I took away from that clip. But yeah,
Is that
I thought
guy's name
Shaq was
Jared
going to murder
Greenberg?
him.
Isn't that left coach?
Is that his? Oh, is that left? Oh, is it?
the guy on the left next to Shaq?
Yeah.
That's Lefko. I was like,
Who's Jared Greenberg? He's like the NBA TV guy, right?
the guy that does
panelist,
Get Up?
host.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe that guy's short then. Anyway, that's not important.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Lefko, but
Yeah,
that's
you're right. You're right. My bad.
Taller than I thought too. But dude, that's awesome. Because I saw some photos of Tatum and Shaq like taking a photo and like the angles, and people were like, "Oh, Tatum's so tall." You see the angle right there where everybody's like flat across. Shaq's so much bigger than Tatum, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not close at all. I have another news thing, Ben, that I don't think's on the run sheet before we get to the
great.
Hawks thing that I didn't have time to upload. But all the Celtics, a bunch of the Celtics went to the main team, play against the Atlanta team, and like Hauser was there, Derek White was there, and Jordan Walsh got interviewed by Noah, who we got to get on the podcast.
Yep.
But Noah was like talking to Walsh, and he's like, "I love seeing these guys come and see that I'm like not a bum and that I can actually hoop." And I just enjoyed that everybody like went and watched him, and he was super excited to have them there. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever played like varsity or junior varsity. It's like if you're on junior varsity and the varsity team watches you, it's sick. And if you're on varsity and you watch the JV team, you're super hyped for them, and you can tell they really appreciate you guys being there. Like, these guys aren't that much older than those guys anyway, especially Walsh, right? He's like 19, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have loved it.
Yeah, amazing. I once went on a basketball tour of New Zealand, which is like the peak of my high
That's
school
pretty good.
basketball playing days. And I was in the B squad, untalented as I am,
we'll take it.
athletically speaking. And the A squad would hang around and watch our games afterwards, which meant everything on the odd occasion where I would score or do something that made it look like I was a competent athlete, they would all cheer. So I get those vibes. That's awesome, man. It's an extension of that plane shot, sort of pre-Lamar Stevens tray, where it was the photo of the team posing together on the plane. This is just another iteration of that, right? Just another example that this team is galvanized to the, like most championship teams are. Obviously, it's a stretch to make that connection, that if they show up to a G League game, it means they're going to win the title. But they've left no doubt that at least the chemistry side of things is completely taken care of.
I was just going to say, in that game that they did watch, the Maine Celtics did beat the College Park Skyhawks 127 to 112. Jordan Walsh had 19, 9 boards, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Did go 1 for 5 from 3, which is tough. But, man, Cater out here, dude, just killing people. 9 for 11, 9 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks. And then
Beast.
JD, 13 and 8, 3 steals. Drew Peterson quietly 0 for 7 from the... Oh, Jaden Springer, 26 points, 11 for 18 with 6 rebounds, 3 assists. All right.
We've got a few guys who exist in that groove, that chasm between the G League and the NBA, where they're too good for one and just not good enough for the other, which makes for a really dominant G League team, apparently. They've been awesome. I've been watching the highlights pretty consistently throughout the season, and they've been fantastic. Hopefully we'll see some of them in Vegas for Summer League in July.
Yeah, it's like the quadruple A players in baseball, like the dudes who are too good for triple A, not good enough for the big leagues. And it really makes you appreciate when Springer looks like an all-star and then he gets on the court and he looks like he's never dribbled a basketball before in the NBA. It's like these dudes are just such an crazy level,
Jesus, dude. Like, so Springer 11 for 18? Nuts.
Not bad.
Never.
Not bad at all.
Never.
Let's wrap on this. The Hawks, who we play tomorrow in Atlanta again, are up 7 on the Blazers, while the Celtics just chill out, go to G League games, and presumably play golf and who knows what else. Predictions for this game? I know we pretty much hit on that already, Jake, but how do you think this one's going to go tomorrow?
Right, so injury report-wise, I think we've got... do we have it here?
We do.
No? Oh, we do? Do you want to... we got... I know Drew... Questionable, Horford questionable, Springer questionable, which is funny because Springer played yesterday. But my guess is we don't see Al or Drew. The big toe sprain is like, that's just code for Al's not playing tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And Drew, I mean, I think it's just great news. The biggest news of the week probably is that Drew Holiday has been moved to questionable for the shoulder after people deep diving into dead arm surgery potential options at the end of the season. And so that's huge. Get Derek White back up, but I expect them to come out pretty focused. But I don't know. March is a mess, dude. We got freaking Jalen Green playing for the Rockets, like dominating again, for the first time in his career.
Like Curry.
Yeah, March is like this period right now. You just have to just throw it away for the most part. Like if you're a team like the Celtics doesn't have anything to play for, like we did the pod where we're looking for things like to enjoy. Reading too much into anything, like from big picture wise, is a mistake. But like little things like Pritchard and stuff playing well, that's really what we're kind of looking for. These guys have proved what they're capable of and what they can do and what they should do. 6-game lead on the Western Conference at this point. Like we're a couple of wins away from knocking this whole thing up.
Yeah, I wonder if they come out like that, got knocked in their pride a little bit with that Atlanta loss and come out and just kill them is kind of what I expect, even though, you're right, Jake. Like, it is totally meaningless for them. Like, they got such a big cushion even on the West that the goal is to not have anyone get hurt. And can the refs, call fouls at some point? Like, I was afraid somebody was going to get hurt in that Atlanta game. Like, Wesley Matthews was, out to hit people, dude. Like, there was so much contact on every off-ball action we had. It was crazy, man. At one point, he just, 2 hands on Sam Hauser, who was trying to set a screen, and, pushed him up to the 3-point line. It was crazy. So, don't get hurt. Try and get a win. I do think they're going to come out and whip ass, though. I think so.
Can we see KP just get in a little bit more of a rhythm? I know you guys aren't necessarily along on the ride with me here, but he's just come back from the hamstring thing. But I am a little worried. And, after this, we're going to record our underrated plays video, which will be up on our YouTube channel in a couple of days. But he has looked like he has struggled with that added level of physicality, those fouls that the refs are no longer calling. And so I'd love to see him just begin to grow used to that, because you know what basketball environment is incredibly physical where less fouls are called. It's the playoffs, and they're right around the corner. So like now's the time for KP to adjust to this, and I'd love to see a nice healthy stretch of KP just like getting those switches and kind of dominating out of them, because he just hasn't been doing that since he's been back. My scale of worriness from 0 to Ben Vallis is like 3.
Okay.
So I'm not all the way up there yet, but it's beginning to rise a little bit.
Come on, I would like that too. Absolutely, no question. Let's get KP, 20 and 5 tomorrow, and just on like a nice efficiency game.
All right,
Yeah,
book
love
it. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Hit that like button, subscribe. You guys know the drill. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.
I love the